An actor was hired because that actor had something that the director and the producers wanted. So my job is to help that come out. My name is Jerome Butler, and I'm a dialect coach for television and film productions. Dialect work is taking the actor from a way that they communicate in their everyday life to a way that's more appropriate for the character. And if that transition is something that the actor needs help with, then they call in a dialect coach. So that's really at the core, that's what it is. I started out as an actor. I did train at Juilliard, and I had been doing community theater in Sacramento after high school, and I wanted to go to some place where I could get some training, even without knowing what that meant. I just wanted to do something that would take me further down that road. I think I've always known that I've had a talent for dialects, and when I was acting, at the beginning especially, I would always use that as the way in. You have opportunities, you say yes to them, you do well with those opportunities, and you realize, oh, I'm good at this. I could be good at this. My understanding of coaching always came from my connection to what it meant for an actor. When I'm working with an actor, for example, I deal with things from a point of view of the basic actor questions. What are you doing? What's your motivation? I'm not trying to craft a performance for an actor, but I'm giving them the choices that they could use to craft their performance. And I think that that also is particularly what I'm good at as a dialect coach. I mean, yeah, I know the sounds that are appropriate for a character who comes from this particular place, and I do all that research and know how to keep it consistent, and all of that is important. But what's really important for me is giving an actor the tools to go where their imagination wants to take them. It's not me doing it. It doesn't matter what I think. It doesn't matter that I can do it because I'm not going to be the one doing it. But I need to give the person who is going to do it as many different tools as possible. And that did come from my relationship with acting. Most of my work is on productions. Working with the other elements of a production team, directors, producers, as well as the actor is an important aspect of just everybody getting on to the same page. Because I don't want to work at cross purposes with a producer or with a director. Certainly don't want to do that. How people speak, how people say things, that's a big part of it. And that's the fun part of it. When I'm working with somebody, I start with where they are. I start with where they want to start. I'm always, always, always following the actor in terms of where they want to go with the character and where their imagination is taking them. And sometimes neither of us know what the answer is to that. It always develops. I mean, when it's the best, you're going through a process of discovery. And I have a lot of different ways where I could work with somebody. I could work with someone visually. I can work with somebody from the straight audio aspect of what's going on. And I can work physically as well. Where are we feeling the sound in the body? And how does this manifest itself in terms of other physical things that the person may do? I mean, it's an organic thing, but in terms of making sounds and having sounds happen in different ways than the actor may be accustomed to making them. I mean, because that's all dialect work is. So sometimes we'll be working on sounds and I'll want an actor maybe want to bring the sound more forward in the mask, you know? It doesn't sit back in the throat so much. Maybe it falls out the front of the jaw. Maybe it lives up in the cheekbones. The work that I do with actors is extremely private. So there are examples that come to mind, and I'm hesitant about revealing confidences. So I will say I was working on a movie with an actor, and we talked about how the character that he was portraying carried himself. It was a portrayal of somebody who actually had lived, right? It was a biopic. How does this person carry themselves? What's their head placement like? Which cracked open something in a very powerful way for the actor, because it was a different head placement than their own. And what it did was it changed their attack in terms of how the sound was being made. Sometimes, I've worked with people where we've dealt with how a character walks. But that's all an organic process. I mean, I don't go in and say, hey, let's talk about how this person walks, because it will help you actually get the voice right. It becomes something that occurs in the process as something that might be useful. And it always happens differently, and sometimes it doesn't work. But it's just one of the places I'm willing to go, and one of the tools I'm willing to try, and one of the things I'm willing to throw up on the board, and sometimes it sticks. Sometimes it works.
I got it for free. For free? Yep. I almost got killed. Could have got killed. Might still get killed. Let's get off the street. All right, I got it for free. All right. Okay.
Working on The Get Down was a wonderful experience. And it's also been wonderful watching it as it's come out. A lot of times when you're working on these things, you're afraid to watch them because, you put so much into it and you had a certain feeling when you made it. And then when you watch it, and if it doesn't work very well, or if it's not received well, I mean, that takes a toll on you. So it's been really wonderful to be watching this on Netflix and just saying, wow, it's great. It's even better than I thought it would be. Now, in The Get Down, there were some of the actors who were playing residents of the Bronx who were not New Yorkers. And so what we did was had them identify the things that were parts of their own regional speech patterns, and we worked to minimize those things. And then we did a lot of looking at dialects, and we did a lot of looking at archival footage that the production provided, as well as finding things that I was able to find.
Dinner! So, all y'all kids going to the movies tonight?
Regina and I are going to go see that new horror flick.
Which one?
Satan's Cheerleaders.
Oh, I heard about that. Satan's Cheerleaders? You boys going with them?
We're going to go see that new Metagalactic one, Wars on Mars.
Mars? I hate science fiction.
It's called Star Wars, fools.
And so with the kids, it's just trying to give as strong a sense as possible of things that can be useful for them as actors. It's not a research project. It's not even a documentary. What matters is what stimulates the imagination of the actor. When you're working with young people and you're not young, which is certainly the case with me, you have to try and move into the space of somebody who does not see the world in the same way you do. They don't have the information that you do. They don't have the frame of reference that you do. They don't know anything about that there was a blackout in New York City and what that meant. A lot of these key events in the program, they have no frame of reference, And so I'm looking at it and I say, oh, yeah, that's right, Mayor Koch, and I remember that, and I remember when he was mayor, And they don't have any frame of reference regarding that. And I think that as a coach, as somebody who's trying to help someone take something on, it's just so important to find the person where they are and give them what they need to create the illusion. Any piece of art is an illusion, it's a conceit, and it's contextual. So you're telling a story within a particular frame of reference. I don't ever use stereotypes. I don't ever just say, I'm just going to teach you just a basic Texan accent. No, it's a West Texas accent, and, the person grew up with a mother who was from Chicago and a father who was German, and that's the accent that you're doing. Now, there was another movie that I did, The Judge. One of the things that I found most interesting about it is that it was one of the first jobs that I could remember where all of the actors were American and all of the dialects were American. And much of the work that at least I do has to do with British actors or Australian actors or someone who is not American playing an American. So this was unique in that regard. The story took place in southern Indiana, and it was going to be shot in Boston. So a lot of the day player cast were going to come from the Northeast. So they sent me to Evansville, southern Indiana. And I spent some time there and spoke to a wide variety of people of different ages and different races, and it was great. I was really happy with the way that turned out. You know, consistency. When you're working with a group of actors, that's really a large part of the job, is keeping a level of consistency that doesn't take us out of the story. The key is in the prep. It's all about the prep. So if you prep, then you're going to be able to deal with the eventualities. And what I always keep in mind, because this is a process for me too, I mean, I know this much, which imagine me having my fingers 1/4 of an inch apart. That's how much I know when it comes to how much there is to know. So I really don't know anything. But the first thing is, I know that I don't know anything. And the second thing is, I know how to look for what I need to know. And that's really where I think, if I have any skill, it's there. It helps me do research and it helps me prepare. I continually look at a dialect and I say, I don't know what in heaven's name that is. And I can't do that at all. And then as soon as you start to break it down, it's like, oh, okay, well, you know, because that's kind of where you always start. You look at something and you say, oh, yeah, I kind of do an approximation of that. But for what I need to do to help an actor, at least on a film set, I need to know it deeper than that. So I need to study it deeper. I need to listen. I need to train my ear, tune my ear to it. I need to understand, you know, as much about it as possible. And all of a sudden it's like, now I see what's going on. So inevitably, what you thought was impossible gets taken off that difficult list. So you're always looking at it afresh and trying to dig inside of it and find the truth of it in a way that's really starting from zero every time. Man, I'm just incredibly fortunate. I mean, I got to tell you, I got the world by the tail. I'm very, very fortunate to be doing what I'm doing and to work with the people that I get to work with. Tremendously talented individuals, tenacious, determined, creative, hopeful, supportive. I mean, that's the world that I'm working in all the time. And yes, sometimes it gets, you know, incredibly tense and exhausting. But when you're watching it, you say, oh, yeah, that came out pretty good. And you remember that day when we shot that. Yeah, you have that. But really, when it's the best is when you actually don't have any of those thoughts and you just get lost in the story. And you actually forget that you worked on it for a moment. And you just like it.